Some were going home from their Christmas holidays, others to their New Year's celebrations. Unfortunately, none of them came to their final destination. The world woke up to the most devastating news: a tragic air crash that resulted in the loss of lives of more than 160 people. So, what really caused Korea's deadliest plane crash? Please be advised that this video contains content portraying a real-life aviation accident in which individuals tragically lost their lives. Viewer discretion is advised. On December 29, 2024, Jeju Air Flight 7C-2216 caught Korean nationals and internationals by quick surprise. Devastating footage of the twin-engine Boeing 737-800 circumnavigated the internet. The aircraft was seen skimming along the runway, belly thrust down with no visible aspect of any landing gear at breakneck speed. It then crashed hard into navigation equipment and burst into flames and debris. The results? 175 passengers and 4 flight attendants died, only 2 survivors. This was after nearly 3 decades of a clean record. This came as a horrific sight to the Korean public, as it reminded them deeply of another tragic event that had happened many years prior: the tragic 1977 Korean air crash that had ended the lives of more than 200 people. For more than a week, local TV stations showed footage of thick plumes of black smoke raging through the sky from the plane, which was engulfed in flames. But the question still remains: what really happened to Flight 7C-2216? Investigators and aeronautic experts explained that weather patterns in the area and plausible bird migration activity would be possible reasons that led to the devastating crash. But the questions still linger. Aviation experts and the National Transport Safety Bureau, examining the crash site, cited that the crash came to a horrific finish after slamming into a concrete wall. They also cited that, after continuous investigation of the magnitude of the crash, a section of the tail was the only surviving structure that still retained its structural integrity. This is where the 2 flight attendants who survived the crash, a man and a woman, were seated. With investigations underway, investigators skimmed through the wreckage trying to look for clues that could have led to the deadly crash. They checked every detail to find the flight data recorders and airplane black boxes to find any substantial information that could give insight into what possibly brought Flight 7C-2216 to such a devastating catastrophe. After intense hours of digging through blacked-out sooty wrecks of metal and wreckage, investigators finally stumble across the flight data recorders and black boxes. These are immediately shipped to the South Korean experts department for analysis. Seemingly hoping to finally get an answer to the puzzling tale of the crash, analysts claimed that the flight recorders stopped recording 4 minutes before the crash. This revelation led to more puzzling questions as to why the flight data recorders went offline moments before the crash. The Korean officials sent the devices to the NTSB for further analysis as to why the devices stopped recording 4 minutes before the disaster. This setback left only one more way to the truth. Engineers have been investigating the physical nature of the wreckage, looking at the weak points that could have caused the crash. Regarding the camera footage showing the crash, investigators ruled out the existence of any functional landing gear. This could be possibly due to impact or breakage. Officials claim that the recent bird activity in the air is what would have perhaps brought down the aircraft from the sky. This comes after air traffic controllers warned the pilots of the bird activity minutes before a distress signal rented the cockpit, indicating something was going wrong within the aircraft. Having trained in aviation, pilots learned that in cases of intentional and unintentional distress, an emergency landing should be considered, which allows the pilots to secure an emergency landing. With no possible idea as to what was the cause of the distress, engineers indicated that the landing gears of the aircraft had not been deployed during the crash landing. Was it pilot negligence? As you answer that, how about you spare a few seconds and subscribe to the channel? This will help to ensure that you do not miss any updates that we post. Now, let us get back to the video. Upon further investigation into the airplane structures, engineers discovered that the flaps of the plane that reduce drag while a plane comes in for a landing were not engaged. This leads to two telltale signs that neither the landing gear nor the flaps had been engaged. The leading experts had to hang on to possible causes as quoted by expert Gregory Aligi. At this point, there are a lot more questions than we have answers. Why was the plane going so fast? Why were the flaps not open? Why was the landing gear not down? Gregory Aligi is an aviation expert and former teacher at Italy's Air Force Academy. With the facts and numbers layered out, the data reveals that while the pilots banked in for a landing, they received a warning from air traffic control cautioning them of bird activity in the area. Then, 2 minutes before approaching the runway, a distress signal blared 2 minutes later, forcing them to abort the landing and go around for another entry attempt. They approached the runway again, and the landing gear did not deploy, leading the plane to land on its belly a profound distance from the normal touchdown zone. With the flaps not deployed to reduce speed and increase drag, the speed of the airplane solely depended on the loud and abrasive screeching of the metal along the runway. Unfortunately, this did not provide enough stoppage time for the aircraft to come to rest. It slammed hard onto the berm, encasing a concrete structure that supported an antenna array for the instrument landing system, ending the unfolding disaster tragically. The investigators have arranged the flight data history from the flight data recorders and found that the connector linking the recorder to its data storage was partially damaged without a connector or a link to the power supply. The cockpit voice recorder, however, survived and is still under analysis together with the flight data recorders. But the crucial piece to the puzzle, the last 4 minutes of the crash, remains a mystery, yet to be unturned as further investigations are underway. With the few facts and details, analysts have come to an understanding that the bird damage to the plane and the high-speed entry approach onto the runway with incapacitated landing gears brought the plane down. But what completely ended the disaster and tragedy and destroyed the aircraft, ending the lives of the 179 souls on board, Flight 7 C2 2016, was the deadly impact with the concrete structure which the investigators and airport staff call the localizer. Officials go around to question the structure and layout of the airport, considering it also as a probable cause to the problem at hand. With a runway spreading 2.8 kilometers, officials say it goes against airport policy to have the structure constructed very close to the end of the runway. As stated by former pilot John Cox, CEO of Safety Operating Systems, the runway design absolutely did not meet industry best policies and practices that preclude any hard structures within at least 300 meters from the end of the runway, quote unquote. On another perspective, aviation expert Sally Gethin rattled the question of where there was a possible line of sight on the pilot's end on the localizer, since their approach to the landing was in the opposite direction from the usual landing approach. All could be possible reasons, but the Jeju air disaster remains the most recent air disaster to rattle the southwestern front and South Korea as a whole. Neighboring nations and the world shared their condolences with the families of the departed ones worldwide. This is without a doubt South Korea's deadly plane crash. The thing is, as much as this crash was horrific, it will help to make aviation even safer. Lessons have been learned and corrective measures will be taken to avert similar disasters in the future. What are your thoughts on this tragedy? Let us know in the comment below.